Welcome to the Digital Journey Podcast. Every successful online business entrepreneur has an incredible story to share about their journey to success. Listen and learn from top digital mavericks and online business insiders as they share their secrets so you can live the lifestyle you deserve. Your pilots for today's journey, Rob Fortney and Nick Nimmin. Welcome aboard, passengers. The digital journey begins now.
Welcome to the Digital Journey Podcast, navigating your online business voyage. I'm Rob Fortney from the Amazon Gorillas, and my very good-looking partner, Nick Nimmin's here today.
What is going on? I think that's the first time I've ever been called good-looking, especially by you, Rob. I appreciate it.
I've not been drinking either. If this is your first time listening, thanks for coming. And if you are returning, it's nice to see you again. Hello, everybody. The Digital Journey Podcast is produced for you every week for your enjoyment.
Feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or subscribe below. And if you want to see our handsome faces, you can watch the video version of the podcast on our website, digitaljourneypodcast.com.
All right, our guest for today's show is super exciting, Nick. It's Eben Lingenfelter. Is that pretty good, Eben?
That's a very good order.
All right. He's from South Africa. His business he's in the Amazon affiliate SEO marketing business, and he just sold his website on Empire Flippers for a lot of money, and we'll get into that more, after only really working on it for a year. So that's going to be
nice.
Very interesting. So today, we're going to find out a bunch of stuff and see how we go from there.
And before we get into that, I want to let you know that the Digital Journey Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Empire Flippers. Empire Flippers is the #1 curated marketplace for buying and selling established, profitable online business. Visit their website at empireflippers.com and see what businesses are for sale. And if you already own a business, there's a great place on their website where you can get your business evaluated and see how much it's worth. Now, let's get into the journey.
All right, Eben, welcome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. This is a first, so I'm excited.
This is your first podcast?
First podcast.
First one ever, yeah.
Nice. Welcome aboard.
It's not that hard. We're just going to sit here and talk, and we just want you to share about what you've done, how you got here, and where you're going. So it's kind of a podcast about the journey. So that's exactly what we're going to do. All right. So I guess where we usually start is the first thing is give me your backstory. Like, what were you doing prior to becoming a digital entrepreneur? What kind of business did you do prior, or what do you still do? Because I know a little bit about your background. So you're really doing what you did before, still the same now.
Okay, so I'm a 36-year-old father of 3 from South Africa. I stay in Pretoria. So I'm in Chiang Mai right now for Matt Diggory's conference. He's been one of the guys I follow quite closely for SEO-related stuff. Back home, I'm a software developer at my day job, but I've been tinkering with websites and online marketing for, probably about 7-8 years now. I prefer the Amazon affiliate thing. I also do a little bit of client SEO, which I then use to fund my affiliate sites. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a great start. Now, typically on the show, we have people that are using the online business as like a full-time income. So getting your perspective on actually balancing, having a job in addition to doing this stuff on the side and things like that to generate additional income to kind of pad your life, so to speak. I'm really excited to get into that side of it. So from your software background and from your actual job, do you have business experience from that actually helped you transition into this? Or were you looking around on the internet looking for things to get into for additional income? Or how did you actually stumble onto this type of thing?
So at my day job, I'm purely an employee. So there's no real business-related stuff that I'm involved with over there. But I think it was around about 2008, 2009, I started dabbling, creating a website or two. One was for my father had a few partners. They had a game farm, which is a big thing down in South Africa, where you've got animals roaming free and you can visit over the weekends. So I built a website for them, found out it's kind of easy. Eventually found out WordPress would have been a better option. I did a static HTML then, which is painful.
Sure. You learned that one the hard way.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. So, then I started dabbling with WordPress. In 2010, my wife and I got married, and we were looking for disposable cameras to have on the table so the guests could take pictures of themselves. And I found that you could not buy it in South Africa, which to me was like, how is this possible in today's day and age? So I ended up importing them for our wedding. And then after having seen them at a few other weddings, I said, well, screw this. I'm going to start importing these things and selling them to other brides. So I did that for a couple of years. That did quite well. That led me to creating my first e-commerce store on a WordPress site. But as most guys do, I set up the store, no sales were coming in. I was like, why isn't this working? There's nobody else doing this in South Africa. I should be getting all the sales. So I started exploring how to get traffic. That led me to AdWords. I soon learned that AdWords can be expensive. That turned me on to SEO, started doing SEO for my own site. That little business did quite well for a bit, and then our exchange rate in South Africa took a big dive, which made that business go ends up. And that led me to discovering Amazon affiliate. I did a few courses. I'm a big fan of Andrew Hansen. I'm not sure if you guys know him. He's a big guy in the Amazon affiliate space.
We love to hear that. So along the way, when you can share guys like that, you've already shared Matt, and now you share Andrew. I think those are always a great thing to hear, who the guys you're listening to, because clearly if you become successful and you've been listening to these guys, that gives us a real indication that what they're sharing is great information.
It's legit.
So that's legit. So that's a great thing. So anytime you get a chance to share us some knowledge, go ahead.
Yeah, so go ahead and mention the name one more time just to make sure that it's clear.
So that's Andrew Hansen.
Okay, Andrew Hansen.
He doesn't have a course out right now, but I've done 2 of his training courses. The first one was the Rankings Institute. The second one was Constant Profit Clubs that came out last year. Now, these are slightly more expensive courses. I think the first one was about 1K, the second one maybe about 2K. But once we talk about the numbers a little bit later, I mean, if he comes out of the course, I'm buying it. Doesn't matter what it costs, it's worth it. He's one of those guys that his stuff works for me.
My thought process in that always is, why would you not, like $1,000 to spend on a course, like people like sometimes like it's a lot of money. That is not a lot of money. Like if you're starting a business and you're going to go be a mechanic and you don't have any tools, you're like, I'm just going to show up the first day and I've got that, I got that little box with those gift things.
I've got like a hammer in here.
Right.
I got a hammer
and I got a screwdriver. I'm going to start fixing cars. It doesn't work that way. Like, so spending $1,000 to have somebody walk you through the process from front to start. And I don't care who it is. If you got a course and they are plain to understand and you can walk through it, $1,000 isn't that much money. If you're talking about an investment that could create $2,000-$3,000 a month, you only have to create over a year $1,000 to earn back. That's $100 a month, and you're back to even. So I always encourage people. Sometimes people are very cautious about I don't want to spend the money on a website. I mean, the first thing you said was it's expensive. $1,000 is not that expensive when you're looking at it as what you said. You said, well, look, in a minute you'll see how much money I made, and I think you'll see that. So I think for people out there listening, I think the fact that you're going to have to spend some money in getting educated. And I don't care how you get educated. Now, you can sit and watch YouTube videos all day long, but it's so much nicer when it's organized, put together, and there's at least a commonality or a continuum of the thought process all the way through.
And support. In a lot of cases, you can watch YouTube videos all day long, but if you leave a comment, there's no guarantee that the person's going to take time out of their day to come in and answer the question that you have specific to your situation. But if you're in a course, then, in a lot of cases, especially if you're getting a course that's, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, you're going to have somebody that is on the other end of that's willing to, at the very least, answer an email for you to kind of help demystify a problem that you might be having.
No, for sure. And what I like about Andrew's courses is it's usually like a 6 to 8 weeks type program thing. There's a Facebook group associated with it. So I'm actually meeting one of the other graduates from the Rankings Institute this week in Chiang Mai. He's also here for the conference. So you kind of build a network of guys and girls doing the same thing as you. You get that support. So yeah. I mean, for a very long time, I thought $1,000 was a ridiculous thing to pay for a course.
Yeah.
But now I'm at the stage where I would gladly pay that again for anything Andrew puts out.
Well,
I mean,
you just spent, I know where you come from. You come from South Africa. I actually thought it was like a 5-8 hour flight or something. And he says, no, it takes 24 hours from start to finish to get here.
3 flights, 2 layovers.
Right. And he's leaving. This is like Friday, and he's leaving Sunday?
I'm leaving Saturday already.
Okay. So he flew in. I mean,
for a weekend, essentially.
For a weekend. And flights from there are not cheap. He's got hotel rooms to come in here to go to a conference.
It's a 1-day conference.
It's a 1-day conference, not even like a 3-day. It's a 1-day conference to learn more about his business. And that's the things that I think if you're going to start an online business, or even if you're continuing your online business and you already have an online business, you should be always trying to expand what you're doing. You should always be looking for ways to improve, because what may be working for you today could absolutely wake you up in the morning and not be working.
Right.
And
that's a common thing, on the internet, with all types of different internet businesses.
100%. Look, I know the money I spent to be here this week, I'll make back 100-fold easily within a year. So, and I mean, that'll keep paying for itself for a long time coming.
I had the exact same conversation with your friend Francois. He and I were looking at going to a conference, and we sat down before it, and I said, is there any way on the planet that if I spend this time, and it was like a workflow group where you go and you work every day for 2 weeks, and it's structured, but it pushes you through. And I said, is there any way that you and I could not make $500 each by spending this much time working on it? It's not even possible that you couldn't. So yes, you can buy a bad course, but go out there and listen to guys who are doing it. So the number one thing I ask every time, well, how did you learn? What is your course? What did you do? Because if you'll find out, people just don't invent this stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like nobody wakes up one morning and is like, I'm going to invent SEO today and I'm going to come up with a new theory on how to do this. No, you're not. No,
right.
no, you're not. No, you're not. Okay. So you have to follow somebody, and you have to go out and find people that you can listen to. And that's what mentors are about. And that's what having these courses are about. You can go out and study. Now, do you have to spend $5,000 on a course? No, I'll guarantee you there's probably a $1,000 course that's just as good as a $5,000 course. So go out and spend the time and investigate. Look for reviews the same way you would review a stereo player. Go out and review SEO. Go out and review, people who are, teaching stuff.
Exactly. And I especially like the SEO space because everything I do is reverse engineering other guys who are successful. I mean, the front page of Google, that's like a roadmap of what you need to do to be there. So if you look at what those 10 guys are doing, you do the same, do a little bit more at a higher quality, you're going to be above them.
Can you get a lot of information? So you said you're looking at the front page. Can you get a lot of information, from what other people are doing from there? I mean, besides what we can see visually, are there pieces of software, anything that you're able to analyze what they're doing and they're doing so you can copy it?
So there's a ton of different tools that you can use. I've got tools that will tell me a specific website which keywords are ranking for. So I can go and compare, let's say I had a site, we were talking about curling irons before, just as an example. I can go and look at the top 5 sites for curling irons, see exactly which keywords they are optimizing for, and grab all the keywords from those 3 sites, because they're bound to not hit every single one of those keywords, all of them. Right. If I combine that, I'm getting more traffic than those 3. So it's reverse engineering.
Right.
And that's the same way with the course. If I know a certain guy is being successful, I'll go study what he did. It sounds very simple if you put it like that.
No, I understand completely, and I think that's something people miss a lot when they're looking at doing business and starting. One of the things that we talk about a lot on the show is that process of getting over that fear to get started. When you did you bought that first, so you bought a website first, is that what you said earlier? When you first started, you bought.
So that was like a website that I put up for free for family.
Oh, okay.
And that's the way I kind of got started. So I've always been building websites myself. My technical background helps with that, but to be honest, WordPress is so easy that anybody can do it. That shouldn't be anything that stops somebody from starting. Anybody can put up a WordPress website today.
And you being somebody who's working, so because I like to start the origin of where you're at, meaning, so you're working your full-time job and you start doing this on the side. So what was it that kind of helped you get started there to have enough, okay, I'm going to spend my time instead of, watching golf or, watching TV. What did you do? How did you justify that time? And was it because you were super interested in it, or what motivated you during that time to get started?
When I first started, my wife and I, we were in a long-distance relationship. So the work week was the easy thing for me. I didn't have anything to do during the evening. So, spending a couple of hours a day now, my business was easy to do. When we got married and she moved to Pretoria where we stay, then it became more difficult. So that was maybe times when she went to bed already, over the weekends getting up a little bit earlier. Occasionally when I had some downtime at the day job. So it became hard. Now I've got 3 boys at home as well, which takes up a lot of my time. So I try to not sit in front of the computer when they're awake, which isn't always easy, because once you get involved in this type of thing and you see the success, you just want to keep working at it. But that balance is it's a difficult thing. It will always remain a difficult thing. I'm not sure. There's no easy answer to it. But if you're committed to it and you know what the results can be, doing it's not work. It's fun. You want to do it.
I know that you've now sold maybe we'll get into this a little later, and you've sold your site, or one of your sites, and obviously you're working on other sites, and you're doing this part-time right now. Mm-hmm. At what point are you going to jump off the hamster wheel? Meaning, what point are you going to go, okay, guys, at work, I appreciate it, and tell your wife, okay, honey, I got to tell you something. I've quit my job, and I'm going to do SEO and Amazon affiliate sites all day. Because what would happen if you all of a sudden spent 40 hours a week on your sites?
That's a question that I've been throwing around in my mind a lot.
That's the same thing that everybody gets to. So that right there is, we want to know where you're at right now, because I think that's one of those points, it's that pressure point where every single person is afraid to make that stop. So tell me where you're at now and how you get to that point, or what's going to make that happen for you.
So over the past year, I've been thinking this a lot, and I've come to the conclusion that you'll never ever be 100% ready for it. If you get more than 80% ready, then you should have done it already. So with my situation, I've got the 3 kids and the wife, I've got a bond on the home. So it's a difficult decision. I would love to do Amazon affiliate full time, but I don't see that happening, not in the next 6 months.
Is it something that you're actually striving for? Because you're saying that you're kicking around the idea right now. Is that something that you have on your list as this is something that I want to accomplish, or are you just kind of rolling along and seeing, kind of letting it morph into what it morphs into, so to speak?
So one of the reasons I came here this week is to kind of get away from my normal environment, so I can actually sit down and set some targets for myself to say, listen, by this date I need to be here, by this date I need to be there, which will then get me to, let's say, 6 to 12 months from now to make that decision and be comfortable with it.
So then that is something you're striving for?
So it is definitely something I am striving for. But when exactly, this week at some point I need to sit down, reflect a little bit and put those goals in place. And that's also something I need to discuss with my wife. I don't want to cause...
Got to talk to the boss.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Get all the forms signed and the permission slips.
Sure. So in the process of putting all this stuff together, because you're investing a lot of your after work time, your personal time, into making all of this stuff work. In that process, have you ran it into anything to where you thought about actually hanging it up and not continuing forward? Like, have you ran into any roadblocks? Have you ran into any barriers that have made you second guess what it is that you are doing on this path?
Very early on, this was around 2014, I had a big scare. So I fairly quickly got up to about 1K a month, which in South Africa for something that was a side hustle was like very, very good. Most people wouldn't believe it if I told them that. Something that I spent a few hours a week on making 1K a month would just seem too good to be true. But there was a big de-indexation that Google did across PBNs, which is like a grey hat, black hat type of way of building links. So a big part of my network got hit by that. That 1K a month disappeared. So at that point,
disappeared as in down to zero, or disappeared as down to $100?
$100 or less a month.
Wow.
So that was like a big hit, a big scare. And at that point, I thought, yes, this was a lot of effort to get to where I wanted to be. But then I realized, at that point, it was making 1K a month, and I was doing close to no work at all. Doing a little bit of maintenance here and there, a couple of hours a week. So it's like the payoff is still so good that I have to start over again. And it wasn't like starting over because I had all the knowledge anyway. So starting over meant I could do what I did previously in, let's say, 12 months, cut that down to 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 months. Right. So it kind of got me motivated to do things a little differently. So it was a tough lesson, but it was a very valuable lesson. So, I'm now at the point where I'll figure out if anything changes. I'll try to stay ahead of the curve. You can't always, because I play in Google's play area. They set the rules, make the rules. But I'll keep doing this until search engines doesn't exist anymore. And that's not going away.
Not with as much information that's out there.
Exactly.
You got to wheel the way through it somehow.
So when you first got started in all of this, was it something that you funded yourself to get it all started, or did you find other creative ways to kind of get everything off of the ground?
So on top of the affiliate stuff, I do a little bit of client work as well. So I help a couple of local companies in South Africa with their SEO campaigns.
Oh, okay.
I've done a few WordPress websites. Now, these types of services don't pay as well in South Africa like it might do in the US, but that's always been enough to give me some spending money for the affiliate sites to grow that with.
Okay.
Initially, there was a little bit of investment from the day job, but I soon realized that that was a very difficult thing to manage. So I knew that money had to come from somewhere to get the growth that I wanted. Because there's, I mean, as with any business, there's tools and things, there's running costs, operations.
That's what I was going to ask you. So if you're maintaining your site, like what's a cost? Like you said, you had a money that would put in your affiliate site. What are you spending that money on in your business? So take $100 from building a website. What do you spend that money on?
So I'm very bad with the financials. I can't give you exact hard costs now, but I mean, right now I've got 2 virtual assistants working with me. They spend between 40 and 60 hours a week working on some of my things that I just don't have the time to get around to. That might be some of the client work, that would be some of the affiliate stuff as well. So that to me is one of my biggest, I'm not going to say it's a cost. I mean, that to me is an investment because they're growing both sides of the business. So I need to be profitable enough to cover those costs and to have some left for some of the other things that require money to be spent.
Last night you shared a way in which you're now expanding your VAs. Why don't you go ahead and share that just quickly? We talked about how you were training one and doing the other one. So it's a way to scale, I guess.
So this was a tip that I got from a interview that Matt Diggity had with, I'm not sure who the interviewer was. And one of the big things with a VA is you need to give them a solid, structured process to follow. I work with guys from the Philippines who are very loyal, but you really need to tell them exactly what it is that they need to be doing. And you kind of need to give them, if this doesn't work, do this, escalate in this way, contact this person to have it fixed. And what Matt does is he will explain a process to the first virtual assistant. And that's the process I'm following right now. So I will explain this to the first guy. Tell him this is exactly how you do this process. I'll walk him through the first time we do this. And once we're done with that, I'll tell him, listen, next step is you must put together a standard operating procedure document that details the entire process from beginning to start, screenshots, videos if required, the whole works. Once that is done, that document is handed over to a second person that needs to follow that process from top to bottom. If person 2 has any issues, contact person 1 who wrote the document and bug them until this document is foolproof. Anybody can follow it. And it sounds so simple. Initially, I thought, I can't imagine this even working. And I got to the point where I didn't have the time to do these SOP documents. And I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. And this works gangbusters. I mean, now I take 45 minutes to talk somebody through a process. They go and do the document, which used to take me maybe 3-4 days broken up.
Right.
So they do that. They still take maybe 2-3 days to do that. But by the time that's done, I've already got the next few lined up. So now things are really starting to snowball with that kind of thing.
Yeah, so essentially the idea there is it kind of turns it into McDonald's. As far as, hey, we're going to get we're going to get this process together. We're going to get this system together. Right. We're going to have the pictures for them. You put lettuce here, you put pickles here. This is how many pickles you put on it. This is how long you put it in this particular oven for, and all of that stuff.
Exactly. You take 3 steps this way and 2 steps that way.
Right.
I mean,
right. So then the next person that comes in the line, after that guy at McDonald's gets fired for doing God knows what, then the next person comes in. They just hand them the paperwork and say, all right, now you're plug you into the system.
Mm-hmm. The main reason I don't want VAs is because of that. I don't want to write SOPs. I would rather get my brain, just electrocuted than have somebody have me write an SOP. But I heard that last night. I thought it was brilliant. That's why I wanted you to share it, because it's I could sit down and explain what I do. All right, go click here. Okay, go add this, send this person a birthday gift, or send them a birthday message, do this, and just record that one time through with them and say, okay, come back with that. That's brilliant. So, Evan, one of the most rewarding days that we talk with people on the show about, and we know experiences, is that first day you got that first check. And again, every time, you if you're not watching on YouTube, you watched him light up right then. And so one of the things about getting started is the first moment you pick up that first dollar. And literally it's $1. and you feel like you won the Super Bowl or the World Cup or whatever it might be. Tell us about your first dollar and how that went down.
I think the first online money I made was promoting a health offer on Market Health. For a long time, it was probably 3-4 months, every single day I would go in there to refresh my stats, to go see clicks, impressions, that type of thing. And when I got that first sale, I kind of, because you have to appreciate that moment it's such a big moment when you prove to yourself this thing can work. And I remember I think it was the first year, so I mean at that point I was making sporadic sales, so it was like maybe 1 a month initially, then maybe 5 a month at most. And I remember I would be sitting at work, refreshing my stats, and if there was a sale, I would like leave the room, go somewhere private and do like a little jiggle.
Do a little dance.
It's like a victory dance.
Sure,
to kind of
sure.
appreciate the moment. And I kind of lost that, which isn't a good thing, but you have to celebrate those wins to keep the motivation going.
Just before the show, I was telling you guys I got an affiliate commission, and I was like, yeah. So I don't know that I jump up and down anymore, but you're right. It's a great feeling. Maybe we all need to get back to that. Oh my gosh, we had a great day.
Being that excited instead of being like
do
a
the happy
standard,
dance.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
It'd make life a lot more interesting, that's for sure.
Sure.
I've put out a bunch of sites out there promoting a bunch of different products, and every now and again I get like, not a huge check, but maybe like $100 or maybe $120 check. And I was like, what was this again? I don't even know where this site was still up. And I mean, those things that's so beautiful, getting a check like that. I mean,
It
it's
is.
something you
That's the
did.
cool thing about putting those seeds out there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Of working on all that stuff and creating more and more and more, is that once you get all that stuff out there, then you'll start getting checks like you're talking about right now. You'll start getting checks and deposits, and you have to actually go through and try to actually figure out where the money's coming from, instead of, hey, I made a first dollar, I'm going to dance for it. It's, man, where's the, that's weird. I just got like X amount of dollars and I have no idea where this just came from. Then you have to go and investigate it. It definitely is a change on their perspective for sure.
It's a beautiful thing.
All last week I was getting these $3 payments, and I was trying to figure out, I had to call the people, and I'm like, what is this $3 coming from? Like, I have no idea. Every day it's $3. I'm like, and then they told me that they had changed their system where they charged a monthly maintenance fee of $10, and I was getting $3 of it. And I'm like, well, 500 people a month giving me $3, that's all
take
right
it.
money.
Yeah, sure.
Or 100 people, that's $300. I mean, 50 people, I'll take $150 because those things all
If it's
add
one
up.
person, $3,
That's
that's
right. You're
part of
right.
a coffee.
Hey,
Yeah,
we
I'll
can
take
eat.
it.
We can eat for a month here.
Yeah, that's
That's
true.
a joke. You cannot eat for a month for $3. Do not come here with $3 and try to eat.
Disclaimer, public
Yes.
service announcement, don't try it.
Even if you're thrifty, Steve.
Every online entrepreneur has digital tools that contribute to their success. What's in your digital toolbox?
All right, Eben. So there's this great part of our show. Every show we break it down. It's kind of our feature thing because when we first talked about it, you were telling us about Andrew and you told us about Matt. But let's kind of maybe pull that together a little bit in one, segment of what we call the digital toolbox. So what's in your digital toolbox? And that could be blogs, podcasts, inspirational stuff you read, any software tools or organizational tools or, those kind of things are you using in your business? And go ahead and be detailed. This is something you can just tell us all the things. I get up and do this. And then the last part of that is do you have rituals with these things that you do in your life? So you get up every day and you do these kind of things. And obviously you work a day job, and you got 3 kids and a wife, so I don't know where you'd fit all this stuff in, but apparently you are because you're listening and learning. So go ahead and share it.
So I think two of the tools that I use most in my business is Trello, firstly, for organizing tasks and making sure the VAs are staying.
Okay, Trello.
Trello is awesome.
Yeah.
So we do a little bit of a Kanban where we've got a list of tasks that must be done, tasks being done, and then we've got a tasks that have been signed off. And then we've also got one that needs rework. So if I review a task and it's not quite up to standard, I'll move that back and then the VAs will pick it up again and get it sorted. With that, I started using Slack recently for communicating with the guys. I've only been using that for about 2 or 3 weeks now, but it's working very nicely. Also, Google Drive's a big thing. That's where we keep all our SOP documents. I know some of the SEOs are a bit tin for that about using Google stuff for these types of things.
Well, why? I mean, no, I don't know that. So come back and tell me.
Obviously, if you do SEO, you're playing in Google's sandbox. Now, if there are guys that feel like if you keep details of the SEO stuff that you're doing in your Google Drive, that Google might pick up on that. So
the joke is that Google knows anyway. Doesn't matter where you're keeping stuff; they know anyway.
Yeah,
I can have it in my pocket and then a notepad, and they're like, "Oh, hey, hey, I see what you're doing there.
I know what you're doing."
So, yeah, you have to balance being paranoid and using something that works. So I'm a little less paranoid than some other guys out there. Maybe that will come to bite me in the future. I'll still find out. At some point, it is on my to-do list to move those things away from Google Drive.
But if that's the case, that means that these conversations you're having now are affecting that. You know what I mean? That everything that you do becomes part of that process. So I would think those guys are probably a little paranoid that you could have some documents in your Google Drive, and then you're over here running a company on SEO, and somehow
that one employee is sifting through your documents.
Well, now because it's AI, and AI can do stuff because it's just able to look at everything and come up with this answer. I saw that on Facebook this morning. There's a big bunch of stuff on the news right now about Facebook saying
Listening
they're
to
not
your,
listening. And we all have experienced it now at this point. I have it happen to me often where you're talking and having a conversation, the next thing you know in your news feed, stuff like that. And they explained it by some theory where, you wake up and you think of a topic in your mind, and then when you see it later on, it then sounds like, so there's a psychology thing that
kind of like you buy a red car and then all of a sudden you start seeing red cars everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But
I totally disagree with that because of the weird stuff that's been presented.
No,
to me.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about cat houses right now. And watch. Cat houses. Tomorrow, all you guys think about cat houses right now, and let's see if you get cat houses on your.
Now,
feed.
what type of cat house are we being specific about here? Because that could fall under a few different things.
Blue cat houses.
Okay, blue cat house.
That's our experiment for the week. Are we being listened to? Go ahead.
So my favorite SEO tool is a site called Ahrefs. One of Tim Sulu, I think is his name. He's also speaking at the conference on Friday, so I'm excited to hear what he says. So that's like a tool that I can use to do a lot of my reverse engineering. So that tells me what type of links another site has been building, so I can replicate similar links. It also tells me which keywords other sites are ranking for. So I can pick up keywords that my competitors are ranking for and use that to grow my own site. So that's a very big tool in my arsenal. Then I've got a few other tools as well, but I don't use them as much. I think those are the biggest ones for me.
So do you listen to any blogs or podcasts, or read any blogs or podcasts?
Reading I don't have a whole lot of time for. I'm in a number of Facebook groups. There's the proper PBN group that is very helpful for SEO type stuff. The local client takeover guys on Facebook, they also run a very, very helpful group. As for podcasts, not currently listening to any of those. I listen to the odd audiobook every now and again.
What about YouTube channels? Do you have any YouTube channels that you watch for information?
YouTube, not so much. Now that I'm thinking about the podcasts, the one I do listen to is the Lion's Hill Show, run by Daryl Rosser. I'm not sure if he's here this week. He is in Saigon, I think. But he's also a very knowledgeable SEO guy. So he's definitely worth listening to as well.
And then, so you're you're going to conferences. Obviously, you're here. Southeast Asia is an amazing place because there's so many people doing these things here. Like we were playing pool last night, and I said, where else on earth are you going to be able to go play pool with guys who do these kind of things over and have these conversations that impact your business? Like, we had conversations that I will absolutely see in my business somewhere from our conversation last night. So the connecting part of it obviously is another tool, talking to other people. So do you maintain relationships with these people who are, so these guys at this conference, do you reach out to any of those guys personally? Have you become friends with it? Does that help?
So for me, in South Africa, the old digital thing isn't very big. So I spoke to my mum before I came over, told her I'm coming in, and she didn't know how this thing works. She didn't know websites can make money. So I had to try and explain it to her, and I kind of gave up. And my friends back home, they also don't really understand how this whole thing works. So I came here to get knowledge from the conference, but a large part of it is also to get to get this type of energy where I speak with guys doing the same kind of thing in the same world that understand what I'm talking about. Because that energy is something that, I mean, we mentioned motivation before. There are times where I might spend a week or two and it's just, I'm too busy to get to my business. And then I kind of get demotivated because I know I've lost time, I've lost things that I wanted to do. So this type of energy for me is going to be invaluable. Meeting up with guys like yourselves, staying in touch to keep that connection going, get that energy flowing again. So that's one thing that I think is going to be vital for my success going forward.
Do you have any, so that's more the technical and the maintenance aspect of your business. Do you have guys that are inspirational, like, more guru-y kind of like, just mindset, spirituality, that kind of stuff?
So I am religious, and I do try to use that to remain grounded and to stay humble. Occasionally I would listen to maybe a little bit of Gary Vee. Not that I like all of his stuff, but he's got a few videos that I really like. So I always find that I can listen to some of his stuff for like maybe 2-3 days at a time, and then I kind of need to go elsewhere because it's just too full.
I'm not a fan. He just is too intense for me.
There's this one video by Frank Kern. We can maybe put that in the show notes.
Okay.
That I quite like. I don't know when this interview was done with him. It looks like it's quite an old interview, but he basically said that he almost doesn't believe in things like a recession because there's always money being spent.
Always.
The trick is being at the right end of that transaction. As long as you're on the right end of the transaction, you'll always be doing well. And he was almost like in it he talks about having a gun to your head, having to set up a website to do this and this and this. And if you have the right motivation, you can figure it out. You can do it. I mean, you can learn anything on YouTube these days. I mean, anybody listening to this podcast, if you don't have a website right now, you can have one by the end of today.
Yeah.
I mean,
Repeat that again. I mean, that's a real important thing. So if you haven't started your website and you want to start a website, do it today.
Yeah.
Because by sleep tonight, you can have it, up and going.
Don't go to bed thinking about what your domain name
You'll lose that fire in your sleep. Yeah.
Go get that domain name right now, even if it sounds silly. I mean, I've got domain names registered that
yes.
I don't know
I
what I
think
was
all
thinking.
entrepreneurs do. But one of my side habits is that.
But you have to, once you feel that little bit of fire, go do something to keep it going. And SEO can be a difficult thing because sometimes you wait 3, 4, maybe 6 months for the results to come in from the work you've done. So it's important to be in touch with other guys going through the same thing, to know that you're not on your own. But you have to get started now. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now.
Great tip. Now, let me ask you, what are your future goals with what it is that you're doing right now? What are your future goals? Are you working on anything new? If so, this is also a great chance to do any type of self-promotion that you would like to do or anything like that. But what is it that you're trying to accomplish with your business? Where do you see yourself, let's say, 5 years from now?
So I sold my first website through Empire Flippers earlier this year. Currently still in the earn-out phase. So I can't share too much details because that's sensitive info. But that was
kill us.
that was such a great experience working through them. It was a real hands-off thing. And that's where I sold my website for the next 2 years worth of earnings. So the next 2 years of earnings was paid to me in a day. I can use that now to grow the next sites.
Let's explain that because I think people need to understand how that process works. So your website makes so much money every month. Then what you're saying is that they paid you what we call multiple. Mm-hmm. And what a multiple is your earnings times a number. And the multiple could be you make $1,000 times one time, you get $1,000 for your website, or times 10, you get 10,000. Basically what they're doing is paying you for your future earnings. We feel like your business has been around long enough, and usually you have to have about a year to year and a half worth of consistent earnings. So you can go, okay, this is what this does. And then that multiple. So tell me how that process worked for you when you showed up with your website and you had them evaluated, of course. Walk us through that process a little more deep.
So firstly, it was a very difficult decision for me to make to sell this site. I mean, this site was registered towards the end of 2014. So I sold it in the transaction came through in the August of this year. So I owned that site for about 3 years. Last year I worked very hard on it. So it was almost like my little baby. I mean, I didn't want to sell it. To me, at one point I thought, why would you kill the hen that lays the golden egg, the goose that lays the golden egg? So it took a while for me to understand the reasoning behind why I would sell something for future earnings and get that portion up front. But in the SEO world, there are things like penalties, like we mentioned before. I had a bit of a scare back in 2014. So I finally got comfortable with that. Cash injection would help me to sort out a few things out for the family, and have a war chest to build the next batch of sites. So those guys did all the vetting to make sure that the numbers were right. They spoke with the potential buyers, set up some interviews, talked me through the whole process. So that was a big help. I mean, they do take I think it's 15% chunk of the sales price, but the work they put in, I think my site sold for a 28 multiple. The alternative was selling it privately for a 15 multiple. So almost half the money, and I would have had to do all the footwork and take all the risk upon myself. So it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, it shows the advantage of working with a marketplace versus
Exactly.
going out there and knocking on doors yourself.
Well, that's what brokers do.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this: Empire Flippers brokers guys do more than a real estate agent. Like if you've ever
100%.
dealt with a real estate agent, I promise you they do nothing as compared to what I know the guys do at Empire Flippers, to go through your site, to take the pressure off you. If you do an extended payment, sometimes these deals are structured different all the time, but if you have a deal where did you take a one-time payment or do you have payments out?
So I think they call it the earn-out agreement.
So the earn-out. Yeah.
So there was roughly a 60% upfront payment, and then the buyer and I agreed on a fixed percentage of monthly income for the site, and he'll pay that up until the full payment price has been settled.
Well, Empire Flippers collects that money for you. Like they
Exactly.
call you up and said it. They do that, So, and then they're obviously trying to create the package to explain what your site does and how it does, and that you need an SOP for how you do it. And so I think that that's one of the things that they offer to people. So that 15%, and I see it happen all the time. They're going to get far exceedingly more money than you would have got for your site without that. Now, when we say that on the other end for a buyer, let's say if I'm somebody who's going to buy something, because that may sound like that's bad for the buyer. No. Here's why it's not bad for the buyer. First of all, that's a real value on the deal. They go through this process to really evaluate the value of that business. But the value of that business comes with, what does your paperwork like, Evan? What are you able to present? How can I walk through this process quicker? What
verifiable, repeatable.
Right? Can I follow this? Can I do this? Who's this? Who's that? So as a buyer, you're getting, the reason the multiple's better is because the information that Empire Flippers puts together for a buyer is better than anybody else's. And that process of protecting you as well. Because it's not just a one-way process. They've got to protect the buyers as well and make sure that you have your act together, that your numbers are your numbers,
Exactly.
that your links are PBNs or they're not. Hey, listen, I was at a seminar last night at Empire Flippers. I didn't realize you could sell a site with all PBN links on it. Now, if you don't know what a PBN link is, we'll leave that for another topic. It's not like it's this illegal thing, but basically it's links that are kind of made up on websites that don't have a lot of information on them. Am I right? Is that?
So when you talk about SEO, there's a scale. They talk about white hats and black hats. Now, a white hat is a person that will do more kind of an outreach link building, reaching out to bloggers, offering to post articles on their website. PBNs fall, I would call it grey hat, where black hat is kind of illegal hacking sites, that type of thing. But the white hat see everything outside of what they do as black hat. For them, it's purely black and white. So PBNs is a way of, what's the right way to say this, of creating your own links, being in charge of your own links, being in control of your own links. And it's much more scalable and often more effective than other ways of building links. So I use them primarily for my link building as well.
So get back to your Empire Flippers. I wanted to explain to people how that process works. I think, understanding why a brokerage firm can help you. Obviously, it makes it a much simpler process for you. So what did you actually, so you said you got a 28 multiple, which is basically 2 years and 4 months.
Exactly.
So like this person who bought his website was willing to say. Now on the buyer's end, because I think people miss this, because a lot of time we talk about sellers, but the buyer end, where else can you go put in $50,000 into any investment and 2 years later get your whole investment back?
That's 100% growth in 2 years.
It's not possible in any other place on the planet right now. Now, is this something that doesn't have risk associated? Absolutely. But if you're an investor and if you're an investor, you have multiple layers of risk that you're willing to take. And there's this end down here, which is a higher risk deal with a higher rate of return. Websites are an amazing way. So you may not have to learn everything you can skip over a lot of his heartache because you could buy his website. So if you're sitting out there right now and you want to go spend $20,000 and get your own site, have all this done, have the products be selling, knowing that it does $1,000 a month right now and you can go buy it for $25,000, you then can take that and then you're running already. Then you just got to get your skills up on continuing to do that, but improving the website, and then you create the money. And then the truth is, I think a year and a half or 2 years from now, these things are going to be 30 and 35 times. I see that happening, and growing. So what did you sell your website for? How much was it doing a month? Because I think that's a big number.
So the final sales price was 62K. So the average was, I think it was about 2,300, 2,400 a month. You can work that out with a 28 multiple.
Yeah.
But I think to touch on what you just said, what I see the real value for a buyer is, let's say somebody in my position that don't have a lot of time, if I had the 20, 30K to spend and you don't know SEO yet, that's a perfect way to get started. Buy the site, see what's working on your own site, do the little tweaks, see what effect they have, and learn that way. Because if I just start from scratch right now without any SEO knowledge, that's going to be at least 3 years out for me to get to that same point. So, I mean, you've got to weigh up spending 3 years of your time learning a new skill versus paying perhaps a large sum up front, or what might feel like a large sum, and getting that income right off the bat.
So buying a course is $1,000, or you can buy the race car to get in the race for 12 or 15 in reality.
Yeah.
You can buy a site that makes about $1,000 a month, for 20, 25. You can buy a site that makes $500 a month. You just multiply that number, and the variables will, the X factor will vary, depending on what they have, what kind of niche and what kind of market they're in and things like that, and what kind of information you can provide for the thing. So if you are out there and you are an SEO guy and you've got an affiliate site or whatever, the main thing is to have your stuff kind of put together. Like, this is how I do it. This is what I do. This is what the numbers look like. And I'm sure you had to spend some time putting numbers together and going back through that, because most guys who do this, obviously with kids and you're not great at putting your numbers together. Okay, I got more money at the end of the month. Okay, I'm winning.
On my site, we spent about a month vetting the website, getting the numbers together, all the earnings, the expenses, that type of thing, before we've settled on the selling price, and before Empire Flippers were comfortable saying this is a site we can promote. That was largely because I wasn't as organized as I should have been. So, I mean, if anybody out there is thinking of doing this type of thing, start early. Make sure that you've got all your T's crossed, your I's dotted.
Yes.
That's the way you say it. It helps, but the guys from Empire Flippers, they've been doing this for a long time, so they talked me through it. We got it set up, and Bob's your uncle.
Nice. Well, congratulations on the sale.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure that's going to open up some future doors for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was a large sum for somebody from South Africa. So
your wife sees this check every month. You got a little bit extra budget before. Like, what does she think when all of a sudden you show up with, we're getting this?
So there was a long time where I had the feeling she thought I was just maybe wasting time goofing around, that type of thing. And I started doing much better last year. Last year, the Christmas rush was unbelievable. And at the time, then January, when I decided to sell the site and I showed her the sales price, I think it didn't really make sense to her at the time. The site did take a while to sell, but when it sold, I mean, I remember getting the first deposit into my South Africa bank account, and when I woke up that morning, I had to read the message a couple times just to have it sink in. Nice. So that was a big moment, yeah.
That's our new segment. Tell us how it is when you got your first, 5-figure check.
Yeah.
So I guess before we get out of here, good.
Yeah,
So
we're good.
before we get out of here, I always like to ask people, like, do you feel like you're successful at this point, or what do you see as success? Because I think a lot of people have a problem defining what success is, and so they never think they're successful. So at this point, I mean, do you think that building a site and then selling it for $60,000 is that successful as a SEO Amazon affiliate guy?
So I think success is a relative thing, and it also depends on your own perspective. So I know back home, a lot of people would see that as a big success. And I mean, you have to give yourself credit as well. So I do see that as a success, but I think there's a lot more for me to attain. I think a lot of that will come down to having more time to spend with the family. I think that will be my big factor in determining my success. If I've got the time back home to take my boys to their sports practices, that type of thing, then I'll be very happy.
Yeah, and that's really what it all comes down to.
Yeah, I think your goal doesn't have to be after this that you're going to go travel Asia.
Yeah.
Like I know we tend to on the podcast because we're hearing Asian
biased.
people. We're biased. But you can go. I think what your statement was probably one of the most prolific ones that I've heard is, I want to go to my boys' football game.
Right.
How great is that?
Spending time with the family, spending time with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes everything.
That's
worth
what
it.
this is
You know
all
what I mean?
about.
Right.
Exactly.
You know what I in myself, I repeat to myself is, am I doing what I want to do? Do I do what I want to do? And that's the choice that I think an online or digital business can put you. Can I do what I want to do? Do I get to make the choice for what I do? If you have a job, you're still having to, the man still tells you when to show up, what to do. And so my goal for you is to push it. I'm going to keep pushing on you. What are you doing? You got to get this, because I want you to quit that job. I want you to call your wife and go, I just got 250. Can I quit now?
Sounds like a plan.
Evan, thank you so much for coming by.
And if we want to find out more about you, if the people that are listening want to find out more about you, they want to find out what it is that you're into, things like that, how do they get in touch with you?
I think the best way would be on my personal Facebook profile. I'm always keen to hook up with more guys doing some of the same stuff. Yeah, that's the best way.
Okay, so could you spell that out for us?
I
For the
think-
people, or we'll put it in the show notes.
I
to make
think
it
show
easy.
notes is going to
Okay,
be easier.
yeah,
I've got
yeah.
a difficult surname.
Okay, fantastic.
You've been listening to the Digital Journey Podcast, navigating you through your online business voyage. We'll see you next week. And if you've not listened to our previous podcasts and you'd like to check them out, there's lots of other great entrepreneurs on there we've had as guests so far. We've had Matt Diggity. I wasn't an SEO guy. I didn't realize how big a guy that Matt was. He's just a guy who showed up. He wanted to talk about SEO. And I'm like, and now I keep hearing, we've got like the man, So anyway, thanks for listening. You can check that out at digitaljourneypodcast.com.
And we encourage you to give us some feedback. If you are watching this or if you're listening to this on iTunes or any other outlet, make sure that you give us a 5-star. We'd really appreciate it. If you're listening to this or if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can get more episodes like this in the future. And if you have a story that you want to share, you can reach out to Rob at Gorillas Online at the top of this page or me at nicknimmin.com. And if you're interested in searching for an online business or selling your business, make sure you check out Empire Flippers at empireflippers.com. Each week, I personally get an email from Justin, who is one of the partners at Empire Flippers, and there are usually 6 to 10 new businesses for sale. Opportunity is waiting for you at empireflippers.com.
Thanks again, Evan, for sharing your digital journey, and we wish you tons of success in the future. We hope that you've enjoyed this podcast and it has inspired you. Before we go, let's share some wise words from some other smart entrepreneurs. This comes from Albert Einstein, and it's really short this time. Strive not to be a success, but to be of a value. There you go. Have a great week. Keep hustling, keep working, and making money. You can do this, I promise.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You're listening to the Digital Journey Podcast. The Digital Journey is brought to you by Empire Flippers, the largest marketplace for selling and purchasing online businesses. EmpireFlippers.com.